It's weird for the first thing to be. Just have a drink and then I'll start. Right.
Yeah. Come on.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Fix. Slightly different today because we are somewhat on location. We're in Oxford preparing to do a workshop with an agency here tomorrow. We're actually talking to you from what we think was once a cell in the bowels of Oxford Castle's prison. It's now a hotel. We've got a little side room off my main hotel room that we thought we'd record an episode in here. So it is a slightly weird vibe, but we're doing exactly the same thing that we do every single week in The Fix. I'm going to take a look at a piece of copy which we will bring up on screen now. Glenn, I will read it aloud. The copy reads, "This is the story of how one professional beat the bookmakers so badly they closed his betting accounts. Now he'll show you how professional gamblers make a very good living from racing. This is the secret method your bookmaker hopes you will never discover. Dear fellow bettor, when I saw the email from Bet365, I knew what it was before I clicked it. Here we go again, I said to myself. Following a review of your account, betting restrictions will be applied on any future bets placed. Another bookmaker was stopping me betting with them. But I was getting used to it by now. It followed an earlier email from Stan James. All Stan James accounts are reviewed on a regular basis, due to betting patterns on this account, the decision has been made to close it. Now you might be wondering, why would bookmakers close my accounts? The simple reason is because they know they can't beat me. You see, I don't bet on horses at the short price odds bookies give me. I create my own book and use it to tell me whether I should bet or not. That way I only bet at value odds and therefore I'm guaranteed to make a profit. That's why I win money from the bookmaker and most people don't. I'm not trying to be clever here, I'm just saying I found a way of beating the bookie that most people don't know about. You can do this too. In fact, anyone can." I'm going to stop there at the first mention of the reader. I'm going to give my view on that first because this is a market that Glenn has far more experience than me working on. So I would say there's lots to like about that piece of copy. It was quite conversationally written. It was relatively easy to read. There was one idea. It was a fairly clear idea, and there was an implied benefit to it. So it was ticking lots of boxes for me. Yeah. There was two things that I think we should dig into, which is one technical point. There was a lot of I and not a lot of you, and although that isn't an unbreakable rule, in general we want to try and bring our reader in a little bit earlier. Yeah. But I think maybe this leads us into a conversation that's about uniqueness. Yep. And how we make sure we're saying something that our competitors aren't saying. Because in my limited experience of looking at copy from the world of gambling, that's something that that idea was something that I was familiar with. Yeah. And that's a challenge that we will often face as copywriters. You know, if we're selling something that in a crowded marketplace, how do we make our message stand out? I think that's the challenge with a piece of copy like this.
Yeah, it's trope. Is trope the right word?
It's a thing that's done. Yeah, I guess. Trope makes it sound more negative than I think you mean it, which is, it's a thing people do. It's a claim people make.
Yeah, so the trope, whether that's the right word or not, of a banned bookmaker, banned from the bookies, is a very old idea that's been in the gambling industry for decades.
But presumably, just to talk about gambling for a second,
yeah.
Presumably that's because it's true. We know that if you are very good at gambling, the bookmakers won't take your bets anymore because they'll lose money, and they sort of know that.
Yeah.
So there is a grain of truth there.
There's a grain of truth, and I'd also say I don't think it's a bad thing it's a good element to have in your copy. If you've got that situation, it's a good credibility play. That's what it really is, because you're saying we've fixed it. We've beaten the bookies to such an extent that we've triggered their warnings so it's an effective system. So you're saying, yes, this is an effective system because the bookies have noticed. The problem is... So
that's a show don't tell, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
However, I think this entire opening, the headline lead complex, all pretty much rely on that as the main way, and I don't think that's the strongest. That's not very unique. I'm gonna make a load of things in my head. As soon as you say that, I go, right, well, I now know you've got the system. Quite a lot of people have done that, so it's not as effective as it used to be. Like the first time, I remember writing a promo, similar idea, but it was literally like in the time when bookmakers sent out letters still to say you've been banned and what have you, and you'd have to get people to place his bets and stuff like this and what have you, and there was like really interesting like stories of that stuff. I think that probably now, it might still work, by the way, everything can still work, but to strengthen this, I think that needs to be a kicker. It needs to be a bullet point. It's an element of a much bigger, more unique aspect to the system. Let's
come on to that in a second, because just to build on what you just said and slightly broaden it out from gambling. If you're making a claim, so that claim is probably true, so that's good. It comes from a grain of truth. Sorry, more than a grain. You know, that's a thing people know. Of course they would ban the best stuff because the bookies will lose money. We know they don't want to do that. So we sort of know it's coming from a relatively good place. Mm-hmm. It was coming from a really good place. But that doesn't necessarily mean that will be enough to break through out to the market. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem with using a claim and an idea that's been used before by your competitors is what happens is if everybody's making the same claim, it becomes a race to the bottom because everyone's saying the same thing. So it's almost like all you have to do is one up the last claim, so that the claims become sillier. So somebody will always come along and promise your reader more money than you did, faster gains, more unbeatable trades. It becomes, because it's the same idea. You just have to one up the last thing until it's like, I tell you what. Rather than saying you could double your money in a year, let's say double your money in a week. Okay, now you've said double your money in a week. Let's say you can double your money in 48 hours. Okay, let's say you can triple your money in 48 hours. Okay, let's say you can 10x your money in 24 hours. Do you see what I mean? It's the same claim, but that's what happens, isn't it? Yeah. The same claim gets one-upped and one-upped and one-upped and one-upped. And the person that wins that is the person that will make the most ridiculous claim that isn't true. So you... Oh...
That was a tick for you.
Yes. So it was a very futuristic noise.
There's someone at my door.
It's from
It's my partner, Ruth.
We're looking
taking the dog out.
Great. It's good. We're absolute professionals here. The problem with that is you don't want to be in that race because somebody will always be more unscrupulous than you are. Somebody will always come along and make a sillier, bigger claim than you because you're all working with the same material. You're just going to get stuck. You're going to get beaten by the next guy. So in general, if we can go back to the product itself and try and find the thing that nobody else can say, we can stake that ground out and people can't take it from us because we started at a place that was more unique to us. So it's even more important than copy. It's like a publishing product ownership level. You want to own the space that nobody else can own. Yeah. And to do that, you can use elements of this, but I think you need to go to the product and say, what else makes this different? Because other people have said this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's like kind of free delivery kind of thing. It's like you expect that now. And in the betting realm, I don't know why it's a realm, but in the betting realm, you kind of would expect any successful betting system to have been banned now, kind of thing. It's not, everybody's got that. So even though it's a really good thing and it's true and it's actually happened, you're not getting the full benefit from that either. So that's just
another
reason.
Somebody will come along and say, I was banned by the bookies, but I can still show you how to make £10 million tomorrow lunchtime or whatever. Yeah. And that will beat your thing. Unfortunately, that's just the way the market ends up working. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's a good claim to make, but someone will one-up you.
Yeah.
So you've got to try, and you can use elements of that, but we've got to find the part of the market that nobody can bounce us off.
You said about you and I and the reader. We'll come to that in a minute. We're talking about this copy in quite broad terms. It's an idea thing, really.
Well, but I think that's because the copy itself is pretty good.
But there is, I would just say, you can see already, though, maybe there's a lack of specificity. I can never say specificity. Specificity?
Yes, you did it.
There we go. But there's a lack of that there. When it refers to the guy, I'd make my own book, I do this kind of thing. None of that's really specific. It's all kind of very vague.
I also thought on that subject, the
well.
Emails, I didn't need to have the email reproduced for me.
Yeah.
While I get it, that sort of feels like specificity and showing. Yeah. Actually, I'm prepared to believe that the bookies said you're banned.
Yeah, but I think where I'm coming from is instead of doing the banned bookie angle, it's in the specificity of the actual system.
Yes, okay.
It's that stuff. Even the headline, I think, says very good profit. It's all a little bit too unspecific. I'm not saying put £9.99 a week kind of thing, but it's just you want to be going into the details and bringing them out.
So let's talk about that. So if you make, I'm going to have to ask you as a gambling expert in some ways, if somebody makes their own book, so I'm now trying to work out how we can make this more unique. Okay. Yeah. Are they not sort of becoming a bookmaker themselves?
Yeah, I mean,
is that not a fresher angle?
Yeah,
well, the first bookmaker who wants you to.
That might be more interesting. Yeah, I mean, Betfair, when you've got the whole exchanges, kind of made that a thing. Like you can lay bets and all this kind of thing.
That's true, but he's creating his own book. So if it's his own book, that's unique. Nobody else has that book, right? Yeah. So maybe there's something there, and that so it still could be connected to the story of I was bounced out of the bookmakers industry, and I did the one thing that no bookie wants you to do. I started my own book.
Yeah.
But then you need to explain why. Well, I'm happy for you to profit from it too. But that might start to get you.
It's in a more interesting spec.
That's what I'm trying to do. Just getting it out.
And going, oh yeah, okay, that's something I might not have seen. Like I am the bookmaker, or the idea of why the bookmaker. You're trying to make the bookmaker the enemy here, but actually to subvert it and make the bookmaker your friend. Like why I am the bookmaker who's going to help you, kind of thing. That now we're kind of going. All right. Okay,
it may not work, but it sounds more unique. I'm just trying to figure out how I get the story into a space. I bet no one said that because it's the opposite to what people say. If the bookie's the enemy, but I've made my own book. Can I subvert what's going on? Because I think we talked about this before. I don't know whether we did it on the Fix or on one of our live calls, which we do for Fix Accelerator members. The idea of just taking something that works well and doing the exact opposite of it is sometimes a way of just opening a door into something that nobody else has done. So whatever you think the opposite is a book that I read years ago by a guy called Paul Arden, but that's always stuck in my mind, and I come back to it.
It's funny because I even think the fact that we're talking about the non-uniqueness of this as a headline, as an idea, as a trope, immediately just switching it around and going, why I'm really pleased I got banned by the bookmakers is already in a area of slightly more interesting.
Yes.
Like, all right, that's confounded my expectation. That sounded like a bad thing, but so it's that kind of just that idea of just changing it slightly. It doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be. It's not it's not a massive rewrite. I do think you want to write a new idea, and I think this copywriter clearly can.
Oh yeah,
because it's good copy.
But it could be something like
just
why.
Like that.
It's basically I got banned by the bookies, and it was the best thing that ever happened. But maybe it's like how getting banned from the bookies, banned by the bookmakers, made me a second income of £40,000 last year. So it sort of feels like, how's that? Yeah. How's that? And then maybe the lead starts to say, I didn't just go to another bookmaker. I didn't go to an exchange. I did the one thing that nobody else had ever done before. Whatever. I ran my own, and then you could. you're going to get to the same place eventually in the copy, but you're just trying to start from a position of, I haven't heard someone say that before.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about, sometimes we talk sometimes about saying, I want to be a 1 or a 10. And that is to say, to be a 10, I'm really, really pushing myself. It's going to be a weird, extraordinary, crazy statement. I may well end up being a 1 out of 10. I have to risk being a 1 to get to a 10. This is a piece of copy that I would put on the sort of 7 or 8 category. It's fine. But if I want to be a 10 to break through in a crowded marketplace, I have to push myself and be prepared to write something a bit bonkers.
Or just put a horse's leg next to the headline.
Or a horse's head.
Or a horse's head. Severed horse's head. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way you have to think about something like this. What's the thing no one has said? What can I say that I can own? And sometimes just flipping things around is a great way in.
To bring it into the you and I thing, I know you want to speak about the reader, but if you think about it, the one thing it says dear fellow better. I don't think you can just put fellow better anyway. That's a nice trying to pull people in, but I don't think this is really talking to the reader, and I'll let you expand on that. But the reason, if you think about it, a lot of that copy, if you are writing to a fellow better, they will know a lot of this stuff. They will already know all of those emails. They will know that stuff. I don't think the writer is necessarily really picturing this reader in their mind. They know they're going to gamble, but it's like, well, if they're like you, then they're going to know half of this stuff. So you can just think about that. I'm obsessed recently with the idea of like how much we really do think about who we are writing to, and the copy shows actually most gamblers will know all of that stuff and be like, yeah, whatever, get to the point. I want to get to the point. That's why you bring the points up, to get to the interesting stuff, kind of thing. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, so I think just to sort of finish up on the you versus I thing, it's just a reminder. We say this so often that those statements. Should we bring it back up on screen? Just
we both keep staring at just a blank screen as though it's going to show us the copy.
I'm going to read it out aloud and have it on screen. You might be wondering, why would bookmakers close my accounts? The simple reason is they know they can't beat me. You see, I don't bet on horses at the short-priced odds the bookies give me. I create my own book and use it to tell me whether I should bet or not. That way, I bet at value odds, and therefore I'm guaranteed to make a profit. That's why I win money from the bookmaker, and most people don't. I'm not trying to be clever here.
Too much eyes.
Just a lot of eyes, and it's fine to have a few, but you've got to try and flip them round. Usually,
I mean, you just to show how you could do it. You could literally just say, you see the email come in from Bet65. You know what's happening before you even click on it. You've been banned. Like it already puts you in that mindset of like, all right, so now I'm really going, I know that kind of thing. That might not work with the actual thing, but it just shows how quickly you can just change it, literally substituting eyes for use.
Or you could even hear, okay, so the sentence, I create my own book and use it to tell me whether or not I should bet or not. The only part that needs to be is I created my own book.
Yeah.
And the great thing for you is, this tells you whether you should bet or not. That way you only bet at value odds, and therefore you're guaranteed to make a profit. Like you can just, I'm going to put the laptop down now, but it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, that you can write that first draft and get I, but it becomes very obvious when you read the copy aloud that like this is I. You are going to need some of them in there, some I's, to tell the person's story. But at every other available opportunity, flip it round and get the word you in. Like Glenn said, open with this happens to you, and then reverse out and say, if this hasn't happened to you yet, well, you're lucky. It happened to me last year, blah, 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 blah. You can get in like that.
Yeah.
And then other statements, you can say, I've done this. And the great news for you is this means that you can do X and Y and Z. All of a sudden, it's about the person you're writing to, if not the person who's writing the letter.
Yeah, if you find that you are guilty of this quite often, and we all have our own like little...
almost like verbal tics, aren't they?
Like there and there. For me, is like a thing. I just always kind of seem to get it wrong. I know what it should be, but just when you're writing.
Yeah.
So I'll have a checklist in my mind, might even have a post-it note on the wall next to my desk, but I'll search for that at the end of an edit and go, oh, I know I'm weak on that, so I'll search for that specific. You could just search for I,
and it will,
and it will show you. Obviously, it will show you it in words as well. But do that anyway, because you'll immediately see where all the I's are, and do that as one. Add that to your little personal edit list. It's the save you from embarrassment list kind of thing, where it's like, right, okay, I've done my work, but I know I always say I a lot, so I'm going to check that. I know I always get yours and your wrong, and I also use the word presumably too much, so I'll search for presumably. These sound silly, but the little things and little quirks, if you're self-aware enough and know that, put that on a little editing list and you just do it automatically. It's just an easier way of checking it.
So, to sort of summarise, strong piece of copy. The issue is more with the idea than the execution here. Mm-hmm. So be careful if you're in a crowded marketplace, as we effectively all are, about saying...
Especially in gambling.
Yeah, especially something like that's very, very competitive. You got to be aware of what your customer may have seen before, what other publishers, whether they're unscrupulous or not, have said or would be prepared to say. Try to find the ground nobody can take from you. It exists for every single product because everyone is unique. I just did one of our masterclasses for the Fix Accelerator. I did one on being unique, and one of the things I said was, you are unique. Actually, it was about writing about you copy. You are a unique person. There are things about you that you can say and nobody else can say them about themselves because they're not true. They're only true about you. And that's true for products too. You have to dig into the thing that this is different for these reasons. Mm-hmm. Find those things and you don't run the risk of somebody else knocking you out of the market by just making the same claim in a bigger and frankly sillier way, because that's what tends to happen. It's a race to the bottom. So be careful there. If in doubt, reverse things out. Oh, that sounds like a little slogan. Reverse, do the opposite of what everybody's doing. If everybody's making this claim, how do we say the exact opposite thing? How do we flip it on its head? Because that'll be the thing that people haven't done yet. Or it may be, it can lead you into a more interesting space. Get the copy into that space that nobody else can take off you and you've got a much better chance. And at every opportunity, turn I's into U's. You won't be able to do it with 100%, but you'll probably be able to do it with a good 80 to 90%, far more than you would think, and it will just bring your reader along with you a little bit more, and it stops your promotion being something that's just all about the writer, whereas of course we want it to be all about our prospect. They are the person who we are trying to persuade, they're the person at the heart of the story, so of course we want to say you as often as we can. Sorry, I've rattled through it. I've not left you anything left to say. Glenn, have you got any final comments? Maybe about the castle?
It's not a bad castle.
It's an average castle.
It's not the best castle. Good mound.
It's a good mound.
Strong mound.
I think that's called a motte.
And it's the first castle I've seen with a slug and lettuce in it.
The slug and lettuce have been together since 1985. We saw.
If you do work for the slug and lettuce marketing department, get in touch and we'll try and help you too. Otherwise, I hope this was useful.
That's true. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time for another episode of The Fix. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
That's all for this episode, but if you'd like to get your copy reviewed, or you've seen some copy you want Nick and Glenn's opinion on, get in touch at feedback@thefixcopywriting.com. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and share.